Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the EGFH Season 6 Week 1 for Overwatch. Today, we got a best of 5 match between the North Mesquite Stallions and the East Range Academy Bubonic Bagels. I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors, the UConn School of Engineering and the UConn Gaming Club, for helping make this season possible. My name is David Hans Chen, and today I am joined by Dor. Dor, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Ready to watch some good old high school Overwatch. Some good competition coming in today. The Bubonic Bagels versus the Stallions. Are you excited for this matchup?
Oh, I am 100%. And today, we got some fantastic maps. We're going to be starting on Ilios today, followed by Temple of Anubis, then one of my favorite maps, King's Row, and then Havana. And if we're tied at 2-2 at the end of fourth map, we're going to be playing a tiebreaker map on Oasis. And you know what? I'm so excited for this week's matches, so let's just get right into it.
Heading into the match now. Break down these rosters real quick. On the Bubonic Bagels side, it is Flying Monk and Happy Boyo lining up on tank. Blue Lightning and Potato playing support. The DPS lineup for them will be Lone as well as Mom. On the Stallions end, it's Dap and Haw on tank. PUW on DPS and Rag on DPS. And then POS and VOD on support.
Yeah, definitely some curious names on the North Mesquite side, but it looks like they're playing off some school accounts, and I am genuinely really excited for this match. You know, we saw the experimenters. Well, technically, what was the experimenters last season? Now they're the Bubonic Bagels last season, but this season, North Mesquite, brand new to the scene, coming in from Texas, all repping the Dallas Fuel player icon, so it looks like they're ready to play today.
Yeah, and lining up, it will be Bubonic Bagels in on the red side as well as the Stallions over on the blue. And we're seeing two completely different ways to play this well map. We see the Stallions lining up to play some dive, breaking out that Genji. The Doomfist is a bit curious. It's not played too often with the dive, but on the other end of the field, it is the Bubonic Bagels opting for the sort of death volley composition we've seen going around lately.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely think that, especially with I love to see the Lucio here played, especially with so much positioning, what you can do in terms of boops and stuff. But I definitely think the wall on the side of the Bubonic Bagels has definitely proved really useful.
Yeah, and immediately taking off. Blue Lightning will be going down first. Jumping in, though, Dap is just trying to make a mark in here. Rag, though, finds the fifth strike through Potato. Will be putting an end to this one fairly quickly. That main support down is going to be a huge advantage here for the Stallions. Now, moving forward, Flying Monkey just trying to do as much as he can. But it looks like this one's just going to be taken over by the Stallions. They have their tank alive. They have both their supports. That's going to be a huge staying power for them going further on into this point. Pew wins that fight against his counterpart Lone on the Doomfist. The respawns are coming in, though, quickly for the Bubonic Bagels. A dive recommitted by Dap. Moving forward, the Monkey still holding on to this choke as best he can. The Reinhardt is back alive, though, for the Bagels. This point certainly not over yet, but it has ticked, and that means the percentage is just going up and up here for the Stallions. As long as they live, this point will be ticking down.
Yeah, and a great cap for the side of the North Mesquite Stallions, but the Bagels, they're coming back a little bit, but it looks like it will be a little bit unfortunate. You know, we saw a kind of a bit of a stagger, but I kind of want to see the Bagels here kind of play around this Rhine wall a little bit more, be a little more aggressive. Now they have a shatter, now they have a bomb, they can do a lot more. It looks like, heck, even the entire Bagels lineup have their full ult charges basically available for this next fight, maybe except for the rally.
Yeah, they'll have a good chance at winning this one, but it's going to take a pretty solid engagement. That D-Bomb can do work, though, as long as that Winston bubble is down, and it is. Moving in, though, Rag finds the immediate kill on a Mom. Down to DPS, and now down a tank. Happy Boyle goes down next, and it's disaster here as the Bagels move in, force out the Meteor Strike. This push is all but done.
Yeah, and it looks like such a coordinated dive coming out from the side of North Mesquite High School here. The Stallions are doing fantastic work, and I honestly wanted to see more of a commit to this fight from the Reinhardt. You know, he definitely died really early, and he didn't get his shatter off. But now it looks like they're just staggering once again, getting the ult charge. They just need a backing group once again.
Lining up there, they are playing into the Dragon Blade of Rag. So that's going to be a big thing to watch coming into the next fight. It looks like they'll start their engagement soon. The shatter whiff! Big! Meteor Strike comes in, and they don't even get a touch.
An unfortunate non-touch for the side of the Bubonic Bagels. And God, that shatter, did that hit a wall? I couldn't even see that.
I don't think it went off properly. I think it might have ran perfectly into the Winston bubble. I think it was the reaction one coming out of DAP.
Yeah, and definitely an unfortunate use. And definitely I want to see a little more ult synergy and ult coordination coming out of the side of the bubonic bagels. But it looks like they're swapping their tank lineup right now. It looks the Mesquite has decided to swap to the Reinhardt while Bagels decide to swap right back to dive themselves.
So we're just seeing opposite compositions now. Is it going to be the death ball slash semi-dive coming out? Rag's still playing the Genji as a curious pick here, but they have swapped over to the Ana, so I think they're going to be just looking to win fights with Nanoblade pretty early here. They had nice domination over the last round. I think they're confident they can do it again here.
Yeah, definitely. And I kind of just want to see this bubonic bagels team kind of group up more. We see the North Mesquite Stallions, they're playing really close, kind of like doing this death ball style like you mentioned earlier, but we see I feel like the team of this bagels are a little more split up, a little more haphazard. We saw Mom running onto the point just to start, but it looks like they're going to start capping this point, and it looks like they'll be able to secure it.
And the point ticking over the way of the bagels is huge here. The team running dive can stall the point for such a long time, but it's hard to hold inside the point here. If they let the Stallions get too close, it could be an advantageous fight for them as they get into close range. Moving in now, the Reinhardt of DAP is making his way through this bagel side. The shatter, it picks up 3, swinging his hammer through everybody, but alone picks off Rag first. Now DAP just has to manage to get the damage in. That cleave is huge, and he does manage to take out a few members, but now still 3 versus 3 on point. The Mercy is still alive, but the Diva D-Max trying to make his way out as quickly as he can, but the point is maintained here for the Bagels.
Yeah, and a fantastic shatter coming out of DAP for that team fight, but unfortunately, even with such a great shatter, they weren't able to convert. The Bagels playing really well on that point there, and I honestly would like to say that, this monkey is kind of popping off. He's able to kind of get all the damage on every single player available since that point is so small, and they're having some fantastic synergy on point right now.
We'll see his Primal Rage come out though the second he gets out of Shatter, if he manages to survive, but no! It's the Nano Blade coming out, and it's Rag going big with it, picking up 3 kills on the Genji.
Yeah, and Genji going off right there, but it looks like the Nano missed hit the Rhine a little bit, but they still were able to convert that to a team fight. They did commit both support ultimates though, so that means that it looks like the ult advantage is probably going to be going into the Bagels side of things going into this next fight.
So there's a lot of things that the Bagels can do moving in here though. Zoning with that Diva Bomb as well, moving in with the Meteor Strike. They can take up just a lot of space, and it looks like they'll engage with it. And coming down a point, it's going to mean a lot of damage going down here onto the Stallions. Diva Bomb used out, forcing out the Reinhardt shield, but it picks up 2, unable to block it fully now. Moving with the 1-man advantage, make it 2 now. Blue team taking down DAP. It's a pretty sizable lead now for the Bagels as they take the point back over at 59%.
Well, and yeah, an absolutely crucial Meteor Strike into a bomb there for the side of the Bagels, and able to kind of convert that into the next fight. But looking at it again, we have this coalescence from Potato, and I think that's going to be the ultimate that makes or breaks this next team fight, in my opinion.
Yeah, if you're the Stallions, you're really looking for these Nanoblade combos, but they don't have time to get it up. The point at 78%, 79%, the bomb goes down, but it's in the Winston bubble, it picks up 2! A huge one out of Hall, firing right back after Flying Monk's large bomb on his side. DAP firing through with that hammer. It's going to be another kill going down, and now up all the members. They take it back over 90% gained, though. For the Bagels, it's a pretty sizable lead.
And definitely kind of excited to see what this next team fight is going to have to offer for us. We have this Rhine Shatter, but if the Bagels can commit a dry push here, they'll definitely be able to kind of force these ultimates out of the Stallions, and then be able to kind of force in with the ultimates of their own for the next fight, because they still have the time here.
They love good odds, but they have to pull off the dive successfully, and the Monkey and Diva going in at separate times means Happy Boyo goes down quickly. And as they trickle in here, there's going to be a lot of ult charge given away to the Stallions, and they'll take this any day of the week.
And it looks like the Bagels are going to be able to kind of convert this to a win right now for this next fight. But I'm sorry, not the Bagels, the Stallions, but the Bagels, again, like I said, they're going to have a lot of ultimates coming into this next fight, both DPS ultimates and a rally. It looks like it'll be a good time for them.
Yeah, they're running into the Nano Blade, though, and that spells trouble. Rag swift through Mom now, continue on to the point, but they're just trickling in. They're just trying to hold this, and at 90%, I think the Bagels could have easily gotten a better push in, unless its Meteor Strike is huge, and it's not going to be. Instead, it's just Dap running through them, that hammer slicing through them like butter, and it's just overtime ticking down, and a fairly uncoordinated push coming out at the end. Although everything else coming out from the Bubonic Bagels looked pretty solid. Unfortunate that they weren't able to finish off any of those maps.
Yeah, and honestly, that point two is really close on both sides. You know, if Mom was able to kind of use her ultimate there towards the end of things, I definitely think they would have been 100% fine going into this into the point two and maybe even taking it to a point three.
Yeah, and there it is. That Shatter comboed with the Nano was a lot of damage going down onto the Bagels. And it does end up netting the Stallions the first map up 1-0. As we move into the next map, it's going to be Temple of Anubis. And these players, I'm not sure. I don't think we see any player swaps here. So as we just hop back into the lobby, what do you think we're going to see differently moving into Temple of Anubis? Not a super Reinhardt favoring map. A lot of spam damage to come through. The Junkrat's fairly popular there. I don't think you can really just play the Death Ball style that we saw them play before.
Yeah, I definitely think in terms of Temple of Anubis, you know, you have such a long range going into the first point of everything. You know, you have such long sight lines. I want to see more Widow play, some Hanzo play, stuff like that. But they were doing fantastic, honestly, overall.
Yeah, the Stallions have really impressed me so far with their coordination. It's just making solid pushes, and target calling, as simple as it may sound, is something that it takes some of these teams a hot second to get used to. And so taking out players quickly and efficiently is one of the things that Stallions are doing that's really making a mark on this game and letting them end team fights quickly.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm definitely excited for this this map, because Temple of Anubis is definitely one of my favorite control point assault maps, I believe it is. Yeah, assault.
Yes.
And the design, the space, it's fantastic. But obviously, point one is definitely going to be pretty tough for the defending side, especially if they get those staggers in.
And we are going to be moving very quickly into our second map. It's Temple of Anubis. It's 2CP. We know how it can go. The question is, which team is going to better be able to take advantage of the map format? Because that's kind of the name of the game in 2CP. You have to play to the map. It's not like King of the Hill where you're playing, okay, we're playing for sustain no matter where we are because we want to get maximum percentage, or we just want to last in these fights. With 2CP, it's all in or nothing. Either you're going to win this fight with 5, maybe 6 members alive and take the point, or you need to reset quickly. And so teams being able to not only end fights quickly, but start fights quickly, regroup and reset and formulate a plan is going to allow them multiple pushes, allow them to gain ults quicker. And that's what you really got to look out for here. It's not just the target calling that we saw on King of the Hill maps, where it's a bit more jumbled up and you need to sort out the fights. Here, you need to have a solid plan going in, you need to make it quick, and you need to execute it quick. And the question is, will the Bubonic Bagels be able to do that on their first attack?
Yeah, and I definitely think, especially with the dive composition that they're running here, it may be possible, but Reaper going into the D.Va Winston is definitely going to be a really big challenge for the Bubonic Bagels, you know, being able to kind of shoot free range into these big tanks that are probably going to jump in right around his area. But, you know, with that Matrix, with the booster buff on D.Va recently, you know, the 3-second boosters is something that I love to see on D.Va.
It is very potent. It's super good at controlling these high grounds. We're going to see a lot of the teams struggle to get up onto the high ground here. Anubis' first point is a particularly difficult one to push, especially with a hero like Orisa in the game. They can just set up on this high ground and hold it forever, but I don't think they really have the DPS to kind of back up in this choke or really just win a fight pushing through the Mega Room to the Stallion's right side. And so I think there's a pretty clear path in here for the Bagels. The question is, do they take it?
Yeah, and it looks like they're kind of just slowly sitting here in main. I definitely wanted to see them kind of like use this Winston bubble, either convert to this this left side there for them, or just kind of walk, just honestly just jump. You know, you have the dive tanks, call a target, jump in, you know, pick out this Lucio, pick off this Moira, and make something happen here.
So it's about 45 seconds into the game. We've seen the Winston bubble used. We've seen the Soldier healing field used. We've seen the defense matrix used up. We've seen pretty much all of the Moira's resources thrown into this fight. And now the dive is finally coming out, but they're just going to be short on resources. As they move in, the Monkey gets frozen. He'll be going down pretty readily here. Drops the bubble, keeps himself alive, but Mom now caught out on the opposite end of the little market room there. Q will be the man to take him out, and they're still stuck in this choke. Bubonic Babel's unable to move anywhere.
Yeah, and I definitely think, definitely a very advantageous position here for the Stallions now, because of the fact that they were able to, you know, sit on this high ground. They're set up to have like fight on this main ground basically. You know, Winston wasn't able to get much ultimate charge because of these shields. Diva wasn't able to get much ultimate charge because of these shields. You know, but obviously the definite counterpart there is, you know, Reaper, since he's such a short range hero, he only got 50% charge. But we're looking at going into this next fight, Stallions have basically 5 ultimates here, which is going to be really tough for the Bagels to deal with.
And now moving in, there's pretty even ultimates on the other side. Surprisingly, the sights will be used pushing onto the point, but they're pretty useless whenever it comes to there being 2 shields in front of you. Instead, it's going to be the Blizzard. Dropped on all the Bagels. 3 members getting frozen now. They're facing the hammer of Dap, and he is merciless running through this Bagel side.
Yeah, and unfortunately, looks like a fight loss here for the Bagels. I definitely want to see the Bagels, you know, be more proactive. You know, a lot of the times, you know, we're seeing most of these fights where they're really just sitting on main. They're not really doing much of these conversions, right? So, you know, Monkey, Diva, they need to be calling these targets. They need to be diving in. You know, the point of these dive tanks is that you want to go in, you want to pick a target instantly. Obviously, Reaper is definitely something like I mentioned earlier, tough for them to deal with. But you know, even just like convert into this left side room and start walking up and try to control the mega health pack there is going to be very valuable for them.
Yeah, and really great ultimate economy efficiency coming out from the Stallions. You see they're maintaining their ultimate advantage. As many ultimates as the Bubonic Bagels may have used in that last fight, these Stallions still have the ultimate advantage. They barely had to use anything to survive it, and I've got to say, the main reason for that has been the halts coming out from Haw. He's bought so much space for his team, forced the Winston to use that jump multiple times, and there, you see it, jumping short, doesn't quite have the cooldowns that he wants, or the teammates to go with them, and they're pushed right back through this choke.
Yeah, and I definitely think the biggest thing here for me is that the Stallions haven't had to use a single support ultimate, which is showing kind of their dominance in this entire fight. You know, usually you see those support ultimates used to kind of just kind of save your team either, or just kind of make a counterplay, or even maybe some initiation on the Moira side of things. But both supports just haven't even seen a need to use it. You know, Beat now used in order to counteract the Blade, and oh my god, that Reaper ultimate used to clear the rest of the fight. It looks like we're on one fight territory now.
Yeah, and the whole kitchen sink thrown into that one. The only ultimate left on the field right now is the Primal Rage coming out from Happy Boy, but I'm not even sure how much effectiveness that has when Flying Monk has already used his Diva Bomb. Now moving into it, they're going to have to choose an alternate route to push in here. The Orisa, though, isn't on the high ground, so it should be an easier dive. Do they take it? No, he pushes in under the bridge, running face first into the Reinhardt, into the Orisa, goes down so quickly. Now the Valk used the Primal Rage untouched, and it's the Blizzard loading up onto the point, and this should mean the end of the fight. 2 members taken down in it. The Valkyrie used above point. They will be able to take over overtime just a little bit more, but the res won't go off, and the push is done now for the Bagels, full held by the Stallions.
Yeah, and Stallions coming into their first season, trying to make a mark, trying to show the rest of the season that, you know, they're nothing to be messed with. You know, obviously they're really coordinated. They seem that they're really ready for this season, and they want to show that they are contenders potentially to go to the Disney Finals this year.
Yeah, and I'd like to zoom on one word that you mentioned there, and it's coordinated. That is the name of the game, especially when it comes to a lot of these high school teams, a lot of these college teams that we get to cast here at EGF. It's coordination. A lot of these players haven't been playing together for too long. It's been a semester. It's been maybe 2. Some players play for a few years, but a lot of them are just getting started here, and so it's getting that team coordination together, getting those solid pushes as a team, and we kind of didn't see that coming out from the Bagels in the last round. They did a pretty good job of it on Ilios, especially on the second map, but we haven't seen it here on Temple of Anubis. They'll have the advantage coming in here on the defense because they're kind of forced to stay in the same place on the high ground. The Stallions, I think we're going to have to look for them to put out a more conceited effort in grouping up and making their pushes quicker.
Yeah, and I definitely think, you know, obviously advantage to the Stallions here. They're going to be going into this first point, only need to capturing the first tick here of the full point on point 1. But, you know, we're looking at the Bagel side of things. They're pulling out a bastion for this defense. And honestly, I really like the ball pick, kind of being able to force everyone to scatter. But, you know, if we see the Lucio on the Stallion side, if they have a good coordination, they just amp speed straight to point, it's going to be pretty devastating for the Bagels.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're going to look to do here. The Bastion is going to be forced down. And I think one curious thing we're not seeing here is the Mercy seemingly absent from the side of the Bagels. And now we see the push coming in, though. Stallions making their way up North Mesquite High School. It feels like the Bagels don't know what's coming at them. They saw them go in there. Now halted dead center. The Bastion moved politely by Ha into a little bit of a better position for him, but they've got to make their way through this choke. I don't think this was the widest decision by the Stallions, but they've done it together. Dap, though, goes down first. Big freeze onto both of the tanks of the Bagels, and they'll be going down immediately, followed by their Bastion. Mom, the big turret that was supposed to keep them alive, keep the pressure up, is now gone. 5 members of the Stallions on the point, and the only man left to do it is alone, but he can't even get near as the Stallions tick over that one tick they needed and take map 2.
Yeah, and honestly, for a second there, I thought that there was a good chance that the Bagels could have even won that fight, because the Mei actually boosted the Bastion up on top of the wall, and they were able to take out Ryan really easily. Here you can see it right now. But unfortunately, with the freeze on the 2 tanks, like you mentioned, Reaper was kind of able to clean house here. You know, not having to deal with that Ryan shield, kind of shooting full into this big ball and into Reinhardt. Definitely a pretty big advantage for the Stallion side of things.
Yeah, and as fortunate as that Maywall was for the Bastion, what it also did was cut the tanks away from their healers. When you push in past the Orisa shield there, when you put the Maywall behind, there's pretty much nothing the main tanks can do. It forces the supports out of position. Yes, there's a Bastion wailing on you the entire time, but I can almost guarantee you that you will gain that 2-man advantage, take the tanks out, and then be able to have the Bastion for free afterwards. And that's what we saw there. They just cleaned up the fight off a very, very clean push.
Yeah, and I definitely think overall, I love to see this Mei play, honestly. You know, obviously we saw Overwatch League as of late. You know, we saw Mei on almost every single map, and we can see how influential those walls can be, those freezes can be, and just like how you can just capture full points with a Blizzard ultimate, and all of that is so good for the rest of the teams.
Yeah, and now the next map will be King's Row. So this is a map, especially on the first point, where the Mei can be absolutely critical. The Mei and Diva play are things to keep your eyes out for. High ground control, as well as winning that Reinhardt battle with the use of the wall, can be things that turn this game around as we see the teams ready up. We'll get into it real quickly, but yeah, I want to see some high-level Mei play here on Kings.
For sure, and I definitely think that, you know, especially in that first choke, unless you go through the theater, it's definitely tough to be able to kind of walk up main there, especially with Mei. You can just wall that off, kind of cut off the Ryan, cut off their tank line, and then just freeze them solid. And it's definitely really tough for the tank line to deal with that. But, you know, King's Row, we've seen some crazy play on this map before. You know, we've seen the LA Gladiators do their whole loop around. We've seen, you know, a lot of great Widowmaker play, especially since the first half of point 1 is so open. You know, you can just have someone's in the attacking side spawn, shoot off a couple people, swap off the Widowmaker, and then, you know, play in something even more aggressive, like a McCree, like a Soldier, like a Doomfist, and definitely excited to see what each side has for us.
Yeah, and the only team playing the Mei here will be the Stallions. So what this creates is a little bit of an imbalance, because Mom, I think, was playing the Mei at some point. And that's going to be an issue, that you don't have the wall to stop the wall. It's hard to explain, but a counter wall here in the choke will disallow the Mei from the sightline that she needs to wall off your tanks. It'll allow you to move around the statue in a much more effective way, gain your team better sightlines, get your Soldier onto that high ground, but they're not going to be able to do that now. And so now it's going to take a really well-coordinated push here out of the Bagels if they want to make it through this choke alive.
Yeah, and I definitely think that I want to see the Stallions make the Bagels make the adaptation. I want to see them be able to you know, analyze the fact that there's a Mei here. Note the fact that they need to walk through this theater, you know, but it looks like they're not going to place the wall here at the main choke. The wall's already been used, and the Bagels might be able to go into a push.
Oh, and a huge kill! Lands on the pause, takes out the Lucio. That's a huge speed advantage now for the Reinhardt of the Bagels, being able to play an even fight, but it's traded right back as PUW lands one onto Lone. The Fire Strike goes through for Hap, which means a big chunk of his ultimate will be going up, but still the advantage is over in Dap's favor, as just the poke damage is enough from the Stallions.
Yeah, and I definitely, honestly, I want to see the Stallions, the Bagels be more proactive. You know, they got that pick on the Lucio. Lucio has, you know, since they're on the defense side, they have a longer spawn. You know, they had this 6v5 fight. They need to be able to push on these ultimates because they have more healing. But it feels like, you know, they're a little timid. They're just sitting back. But they need to be able to make these priority plays themselves.
Yeah, it feels like Stallions have been in the driver's seat right now for pretty much the entire game, and going up and playing the choke confidently is huge. They find the wall onto the Reinhardt. It's not perfect, but it's enough. Happy Boyo goes down, not before POS goes down himself, but a nice push through the choke with Haw's bubbles allows the Stallions to effectively finish off that fight.
Yeah, and great, honestly, great synergy from the two tanks there, getting that shatter off. And again, it looks like we're going into this next fight with two ultimates on the side of the Stallions, and and honestly, High Noon as a zoning ult would be really good. And want to see where this McCree is going to be positioned for this next fight.
Yeah, and he has pretty much the entire point that he could use here, but I think he's just going to stay behind his main tanks and apply pressure. If that Reinhardt duel starts to go down, he can just press Q and force Happy Boyo to back up. In fact, they've already wasted a lot of time in this choke, and that Mei wall is still such a threat. Doomfist makes it through, but there's tanks that need to get there first, and they don't even get there in time to save alone. Now pushing through, they're cut off. Mom's all alone, and now, without any DPS, Bagels are almost certainly going to be losing this fight as well.
I honestly genuinely jumped out of my seat when Lone dived in to try to take out the McCree there. McCree almost instantly stun grenaded him, and that's why Lone got picked off so quickly. You know, seeing some great play out of this McCree on the Stallion side of the game.
Yeah, now we're 2.5 minutes into this game. We have 2 ultimates up for the Bagels, and the Stallions are just sitting on 6. They'll opt for a teleporter that doesn't really get them anywhere. It gets them a little closer to this choke, but this Metro's got to start to do something a little bit more creative if they want to try and catch the Stallions off guard. The Shatter, though! Oh my god, it picks up 4. The flashbang lands on Happy Boyo. Doesn't let him get anywhere. Now countered with the Graviton, the Blizzard. They're laying it on thick, and it's the Stallions putting an end to that push very quickly.
Yeah, but honestly, the big thing to take away from this fight is that the Stallions committed every single ultimate that they possibly had. Both tank ultimates, both DPS ultimates, and the Coalescence. So now, you know, we're going to come into this next fight where the Bagels are fully ult advantage. They have the Coalescence, they have the... oh my, I'm blanking on the Doomfist ultimate name right now. But... you know, I want to see them, you know, push in with this Coalescence, use that as kind of like your battering ram, and force the Stallions back, and then just kind of keep making those aggressive plays.
This is the one chance that the Bagels are going to get with an ultimate advantage. They need to push through this choke, though, before the Mei wall starts to come down. As much as Stallions have given up a lot of space here on the point, I think they're playing this one pretty smart. They're buying themselves time to charge up their ultimates. They do get the sound barrier up in time. The wall doesn't quite stop Happy Boyo where he wants, but a flashbang will force down his shield, and he gets taken out on top of Potato. Main tank and main support down. The Shatter to top it all off, and the Stallions continue their roll right now, full holding King's Row.
And it looks like the Stallions, you know, they're just to continue their little bit of a stampede, like you said. I want to see, but like I've mentioned time and time again, I want to see this Rhine on the Bagel side of the game be more proactive. You know, I feel like they can take the space. You know, they can walk forward a lot of the times, but it seems like the team is so timid. It seems like they're not willing to. I'm not sure why. You know, maybe they're too scared of this Mei. Maybe it's just a team coordination thing. But you know, want to see. Maybe it's a communication thing. Even I just want to see them walk up.
So something that I see in a lot of the college teams that I play against is that little bit of timidness. When you start to hold back, what we're seeing a lot of is Lone and Mom going out on their own. And this is kind of a syndrome of your team playing passively, and so your DPS players feel like they need to create an advantage for your team, and oftentimes it just ends up in them dying, which is something that you need to address as a team, because the second you start holding in this choke, your DPS players just want to go for it, just want to get their team that advantage, because they don't see their tanks moving forward, buying that space, so they feel like they have to make it themselves. And it's creating a lot of holes in the team that I think they just need to talk about. It's not too hard of a difference to make. It's just a conversation that needs to be had, and you can do that mid-game. Yeah. They stand a chance here.
Yeah, and honestly, you know, maybe it's just a little bit of encouragement. You know, like help your Ryan, you know, walk forward. You know, just that little bit of a nudge that you need to give your tank line, just so they know what to do. They know that they have the support and the people behind them. But honestly, I really like the composition coming out of the Bagel side of things right now. You know, you have that Symmetra to kind of melt the Ryan shield. You have the Immortality field from the Batiste, so that AoE healing is really, really strong. And there's a pretty solid chance that they may be able to hold this, especially with a pick coming out of Moira so quickly.
Nice early hold. Does take out the main support, and I think the Stallions are probably just going to sit here, poke a little bit, and buy themselves time. But there's one big key factor here, and it's that the Stallions could swap to a Pharah. That would absolutely dismantle the comp we're seeing out of the Bagels right now. The question is, do they think they need it? As the Reinhardts move forward, their main tank's back up. Sports TP out, but 2 kills going down immediately. Bomb, and Happy Boyo immediately just rolled through, and the tick should be coming over quickly. A nice conceded effort coming out of the Stallions, and They waited for their main support to come back. They pushed calmly through, avoiding all the dangers that come with playing against that Junkrat, against that Symmetra, and just a nice coordinated push.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely think the biggest point there of that push was that when the Rhine from the Bagel side dropped his wall, Reaper analyzed that really quickly, knew that he just had to keep holding left click, walk in, take on that Rhine. As soon as the wall drops down, then it's difficult overall for the entire rest of the team to do much.
Yeah, and now we are moving on to our map 4. It's going to be heading over to Havana, so a map that is a little bit different. It's not really a positional advantage for the defensive team as much as there is in a 2CP map. And so I think we might see a little bit more of a coordinated push able to come out from the Bagels, just solely because there's a moving objective that they're going to want to stick on.
Yeah, and because of the fact that the payload, like you said, they're forced to play around this payload, making sure that they make these moves forward. Hopefully, we'll see a little bit more aggression, a little more coordination coming out of both sides. But I definitely think, like I mentioned before, the biggest takeaways is that North Mesquite, their coordination is absolutely fantastic for a team that has just started this season.
Yeah, they've genuinely impressed me, and I can't wait to see what they get to do in the future, because I think they're going to be a team to keep an eye on, especially as they improve, because the season, of course, is just starting up, and one thing you see with a lot of these leagues is just teams improve so much over the course of the season, and with how they're already looking, I can't help but imagine big things in their future.
Yeah, and especially since, like you said, there's only room for improvement. This team has just been started very, very recently. Their school just got an Overwatch team, and these students may even be playing together for quite literally the first time. Such coordination, you can even build more just being able to scrim, being able to practice with your teams over and over, and all of these games are always just a learning experience for them.
Yeah, and there's a big mindset thing as well. Taking your first game a win with a 3-0, with a 4-0 lead is a big, big boom to your mental game, and I can speak to that a lot. Is your first game impacts you in a big way. You'll keep thinking about it into the future, even past your second, third, fourth games. There's a groove that you have to get into, and it all starts here. And so I think them looking super comfortable, especially moving into their first season ever, is a big help to the Stallions.
Yeah, the mentality helps, being able to kind of snowball that win into a positive mentality, into a good positive mentality for the next game, is always absolutely an advantage for them. And it looks like, they're feeling really confident. They're playing really forward and close to the spawn right now.
So this is something we've actually seen a lot. This early hold allows them to get a respawn in, allows them a fairly decent position on the second hold. Traditionally, if you play back on that corner, you get one push. If you lose, that's pretty much it. You're going to be trickling into the point, just buying your team time. Holding out forward here is not as maybe less powerful as it seems. It actually buys your team a lot of time. The Bastion trying to sneak around the side, but he's immediately punished. And that's one of the few things that can actually break apart this composition. If you get a Bastion outside of the door and then drop in a Mortality field with the Baptiste on the other side, it pretty much instantly will break this. If they're not able to set it up in time, is some great play coming out from Pone. Will open it right up.
Yeah, but now, Lone actually picks off this Lucio, which honestly, that's the biggest factor of playing so close to this door. Once you get a pick off on a player, they have to travel so far for this next attack, just to get back with the team, and it's definitely going to be a big disadvantage for them. But the pressure that the rest of his team is creating makes it so that it's completely possible, and now they have a Shatter ready on the attacking side for this next fight.
Getting out of spawn here is by no means guaranteed. It could take something like a Primal Rage to get them through, but the Shatter looking to end it. Dap is just such a threat through this door. The Orisa shield allows him to just drop his Reinhardt shield and swing through as much as he wants. And so it's going to take a very, very solid effort coming out of the Bagels if they want to get through here. They're going to have to fix that problem that we've been seeing all night if they want to do it. Mom's doing something interesting on the side with the teleporter, but I don't think it's really going to matter too much. They get a Reaper in here on the back line, but the Maywall is brilliant here coming out of Rag. Stops the rest of the Bagels from engaging on the Reaper, and then just cuts them off into a 1v6. Now pushing out of the side door. Something a little bit more creative coming out from the Bagels, but they've got to start executing on these pushes.
Yeah, and I definitely want to see them, if they were going to commit the Sim teleporter, they all have to go through the Sim teleporter, right? Like we mentioned before, this coordination matters so much, especially in this team-based environment, but it looks like the Bagels are going to start committing ultimates here, and it's going to do them well.
Well, taking out the Orisa is a key piece of the puzzle here. As long as no res comes out and there is no mercy on the side of the Stallions, it should be a pretty free push moving out. That Orisa allowed Dap to do a lot on the Reinhardt that he shouldn't have been able to. But Mom has to gain some confidence here. Move up, take a position. Yes, there we go. Coalescence coming out from VOD, and it should open up a lot of space here for the Stallions, and it does, taking out Lone, taking out Happy Boyo, and then Dap charging in, swinging through, confining them back into the spawn, and that means the Orisa should get back here on time.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest takeaways for me for this Stallion side of the match is that even for week 1, they seem so coordinated with their ultimates. Honestly, and, you know, they're not overcommitting ultimates. The only fight we saw them overcommit ultimates to was kind of that 5 ult fight where they kind of needed to. You know, they knew that all of the extra momentum that they needed was through those ultimates. But here, you know, they knew that they only needed the coalescence. They knew that they might only have to commit the Blizzard for this next fight, and their communication seems really strong, just from what I can see.
Nice Gravitic Flux picks up one, and the Death Blossom to follow it up. Does end up taking two, but the Death Blossom from Pew, looking to be larger, takes out one, takes out two, takes out the Mercy as well, which is big because that res matters so much, especially when there's a Reinhardt in the mix that can get back relatively fast because Pew is just dishing out the damage on this Reaper.
Yeah, and honestly, you know, even with them taking out 4 players, it looks like with the Lucius train, they're going to be able to group up pretty quickly, and not looking like a great game here for the Bubonic Bagels side of things, only be able to push the .06 meters. But, you know, we still have 30 seconds left. We still have at least one fight on the board.
Yeah, they could break open this point, but that Blizzard speaks otherwise. Will be freezing down 3, maybe even 4 if this Winston gets down, but the bubble does keep him alive for a bit longer. This might be a bit of an overcommit. No, the Shatter seals it. 12 seconds left on the clock. This Bastion moves forward against VOD, but the Moira, valiant as ever, on card, stopping any progress from being made. It remains at 1.85 meters taken here for the Bagels, and that's going to be it. Almost no distance had, and the Stallions look to clean up the series.
Yeah, and it looks like the Bagels are going to have to do a very similar hold if they can, honestly. Playing right at that gas station, you know, that truck barely even left that gas station. But, you know, it's, you know, there's still a lot of potential here, you know. I think the play from Bastion, as long as they play around that Bastion more, I feel like, and know how to maintain space. I think that's the biggest thing that the Bagels are going to be able to take away from this entire match. Know how to, like, manage the space. And your tank line needs to learn, you know, like, oh, they're conceding space, let's move forward. You know, they're giving us space, they're pushing forward, let's move back. You know, being able to kind of control the flux and the space that your team fights in. That's what your main tanks are for. That's what your and everyone kind of has to play around that, basically.
Yeah, I think it speaks to the fact that I think there may not be a very obvious leader in communications with the Bagels, and that's not something that's super hard to fix. I think that's something you just have to identify and say, hey, this is our main tank. You're going to decide when we go and you're going to call it. But I don't think there's anybody in particular calling the exact engagements because, like you said, we've been seeing them sit back. We've been seeing them kind of lay a little too passive in a lot of these fights. And so moving forward, I think that's something they're going to want to do is just get an obvious shot caller that everyone can listen to, and that'll fix a lot of their problems, honestly.
Yeah, and it looks like Ryan's already going up to the top, gathering the intel for his team. They see the Bastion, they see most of the enemy team already, and they know, you know, they're going to want to come out this right side door, push aggressively, and if they can take out the Bastion, it seems like they're probably going to have a pretty easy win on their hands.
1.85 meters. Let's see if the Stallions can do it. Hook lands onto the Orisa, but the cart already going to start moving. First goes down into Pew. It's a 5v6 now. The spawns are going to be rough here, but stabilizing just a little bit now. The Bagels buy themselves time. Dap not able to swing through as much as he wants to on the sports, but now it's broken wide open. The Bastion gone. The Baptiste gone. The Roadhog gone, and that's it. 1.85 meters done. Stallions do it in a record time.
Yeah, and honestly, like we've mentioned time and time again in this series, fantastic play from the Stallions, especially for their first season. Can't wait to see what honestly the rest of Texas has to offer us, especially with Mesquite playing so well. You know, not only do we have North Mesquite, but we have the entire rest of their district. You know, Mesquite, Poteet, and and honestly, you know, with all of their schools, since they're so close to each other, I want to see them scrim more. It seems like they have such fantastic coordination that they should be able to, you know, make these plays happen.
Yeah, I think they've got a pretty big talent pool to be pulling from, and obviously enough, it's working for them so far. I don't think Bubonic Bagels are going to end up being really that bad of a team. I think they have some things they can go home and work on after this matchup, but by no means do I think they're lost right now. It is still week 1 of this, and so I think getting into it, we'll see some better things coming out from the Bagels, and I see high hopes for the Stallions.
Yeah, and honestly, with games like this, with matches like this, the biggest takeaway is that there are so many things that you can learn. If your mistakes are glaring, then you can see like, oh, this is what we need to fix. If you're winning cleanly, heavy-handedly, like the Stallions kind of did today, they can't take much away from this match. They're like, they can say like, oh, like maybe like I said, in that one fight we may have overcommitted ultimates a little bit, but otherwise Bagels has a lot much more space and lots more time to take away. We have 8 weeks. This is just the first week. After week 2, week 3, you can still take away more lessons, and kind of keep going with it.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, I don't think there was nothing learned for the Stallions. I think obviously your first week is a really big experience to get under your belt, and so they have a lot to take away from that gameplay wise. I think it's just proving that they can do it in a pressured environment where the games do matter. And 4-0, that's a really solid showing for the first game, and I'm excited to see what they have in the future. But as far as matches go, I think that's all we have for high school today, isn't it, Hansa?
Yeah, honestly. So thank you everyone for tuning in to Season 6, Week 1 of our Overwatch League here. We here at EGF want to thank all the schools participating and all the viewers for tuning in today. And of course, we want to thank our wonderful sponsors, the Yukon Gaming Club and the Yukon School of Engineering. You can always follow us at Official EGF on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram for updates and announcements. We'll be back next week at 3:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with some Super Smash Bros. Ultimate gameplay for you all. This is David Hans Chen. You can find me at Hans on all social medias, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, all of that.
And I've been Door at Door_Cass on pretty much just Twitter, but I'm active enough there. Yeah, go ahead and shoot me a follow if you're feeling like it.
Yeah, and thanks again to everyone for tuning in. Love to have you guys, and we'll see you guys next week.